I think I see the notification up, uh, at least in the top corner of the top left corner of the screen.
It's live now. As far as I'm doing a countdown, and it might just be live on the YouTube and not on Facebook, but it's okay. We're gonna push through anyway. Nevertheless,
All
let,
right.
let's try to do our countdown, and then we'll do an introduction. But the good thing about this is we're gonna do a part two anyway, and then we'll
Yeah.
get it on Facebook. Um, but
Mm-hmm.
right now, just trying to act funny for Facebook. But let me try to get the countdown going on, and then we'll
Again, yeah.
get this show on the road.
Sounds good.
30. All right, all right, all right. How are you guys doing today? My name is Francis, last name Castillo, also known as Chaz, And today, I'm not going to lie to you, I am super elated, ecstatic, lost for words, baffled, profound, all the good jazz, all the good words in the English dictionary to explain my expression right now. So today was our first ever D&C interview. Um, we have a special guest, and I'm honored to have him on the show because we're good friends and we've developed this friendship over the last, I would say, year. And I reached out to him, and it was a no-brainer who our first interview was going to officially be. So today, people, we have Mr. Juan Stafford, also known as DoShanko. Go ahead and introduce yourself right quick.
All right. Hey, guys. It is Juan Eric Stafford Jr., but I am called DoShanko under the pen name. I am an author, and yes, Chise came to me, and it was an automatic link up. We knew that we had aspiring motivations. We were both inspired by each other's work, and here we are today. I couldn't be happier to have this host.
Awesome, beautiful, 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 beautiful. And I'm not gonna lie to you. So we're gonna dive straight into our friendship first, and then we're gonna start talking about your upbringing. So as far as our friendship, let me tell you guys how we met. It was kind of like a so happened, crazy circumstance. I had just finished up my first book, and I did like a live, and it was kind of like a Zoom party to promote the book. Of course, it's not about me, but I'm just talking about how our friendship, how we met. And it was a man that tapped into live, and I was like, okay, cool. I'm excited that people are tapping into live, and it was DoShanko, and he had such a great question. And it was like, okay, cool. Who's this guy? And then once we developed this friendship, I was like, okay, cool. I can answer his question, and we just maintained communication from a distance since then, which has been super cool because I tell this to people all the time. People forget your name. People may forget your face, well, randomly, but people never forget how you make them feel. And the way he made me feel was like, okay, this guy's cool, man. He's a cool guy, man. So we maintained that friendship. I always watched him from a distance, and he's been a cool guy, man. So can you expound on our friendship, Shango, and talk about how we met?
Yes, yes. So yes, we were having a little get together with fellow authors, and also, when I asked the question, I was like, you know what, this man right here, he's on a mission. And I really commend people who are just focused on providing a lot of platforms for other people, as well as like feeding themselves, making sure they're good. And we had a little meeting with fellow authors, and that's where I kind of got acquainted. More so, asked a lot more questions. I went under the name DoShanko, and I didn't have the camera up at the time because my laptop was interested. But I do know that we had a really good conversation, and then afterwards we continued to stay in contact. I read your book, and it inspired me to continue working on my own. I even left a review on that. It's like, if you guys haven't seen it, please go read his book. It is just like, it will drive a man to do great things. That's what I think.
Thank you, man. I'm honored and humbled. Thank you so much. That really made my day. It's reciprocated and definitely giving back. So let's talk about you. Let's dive into you as an individual, because I'm not gonna lie to you guys. This is people greatness recognizes greatness, and from a distance, like it's like I can almost like just see how inspiring and how great you are, because you're very very talented. And I tell people all the time, like this has been going through my mind over and over again. God blesses you with so much talent, and some people just tend to just fit in this box because they don't want to break out the box and use all the talent that God gave you, right? And you're one of those people that use every bit of ounce of talent that God gives you. Like you dance frequently, a good dancer by the way. You sing, and you're very philosophical. So tell us about those things that you do, like those talents or those hobbies that you do. So tell us about that.
So it's actually interesting where that got started. You see, when I was younger, I was always into books. However, I was always struggling in literature, believe it or not. I struggled heavily in literature. And it was mainly grasping the concept of pre existing stories. I think, like, yeah, I can, like, probably see all these different, like, big words and, like, probably pronounce them and whatnot, but I didn't really have a grasp for what a lot of these things meant. And as I got older, I started taking an interest in completing different types of excerpts. I wrote different analysis on other books that I've read over the years, and but it never crossed my mind to think about writing a novel in any way, shape, or form. I never really had the confidence to do that, and same goes with dancing and singing as well. Because let's um, let's get this right the way. Despite how deep my voice is when I sing, it's very high pitched. So I was afraid that I would come across as like either too feminine or something of that nature. And then with dancing, I didn't really know that I could dance until like a few years ago, when I actually like I was at my sister's wedding reception, um, and yeah, some Latin music came on, and I just felt the groove. Whenever there's like any type of percussion, Latino music or African music, that's where I kind of met my niche. Wasn't a fan of like the modern hip hop or anything of that nature. I kind of stuck to things that had a lot of rhythm, distinctive sounds, and that's what I tried to emulate through not just dance or through writing, but any type of expression that express freedom. I think once you're free to be yourself, you can expound on many different things.
Man, I tell you what, the cup floweth overeth with the talent you have. You have abundance of talent. Because, like I say, when you dance, sometimes cause sometimes people, he'll dance and he'll do like a just a random Facebook live, and you just see him, and the rhythm just flows through you, bro. And it's just so fluid. Like you're not
Mm.
trying to like force it. So I don't know what you're doing or what you're listening to, but you've gotten apparently gotten better over the years with the flow of the rhythm of the drums. I guess you just let it organically flow through you, man. So even with the singing as well, you just go a cappella and you just start singing, man. So that's amazing, man. So if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, you're from Delaware, correct?
So I currently reside in Delaware. I'm originally from Philadelphia,
Oh, word. Okay. All right. I love it.
city of
Randomly,
brother.
that's it. Simply a brotherly love, man. So I like Philly. I have a lot of Philly friends. Well, growing up, I had a lot of Philadelphia friends, man, and they're very unique people as well, man. Their pride in Philadelphia is very strong. Um, Sidebar: I love the Will Smith book. I learned a lot more about Philadelphia, his upbringing, and then as far as Delaware, my neighbor's from Delaware. I'll text you later on and find out exactly where, but she's from Delaware,
Hmm.
and my wife is from Wilmington, North Carolina, but I've been aware that there's a Wilmington, Delaware too.
Yes, yes, there is.
So other than that, let's get back into you. So did you grow up mostly in Philly, or did you grow up mostly in Delaware, or how did that transpire?
So I definitely grew up most in Delaware. I think in Philly, I was only there for like a few like of the like 4 or like 2 to 3 years or something of that nature. I was really young when I moved to different states. I didn't go immediately to Delaware first. I think I was in Maryland at one point, and we kind of just moved around until we got to Delaware. Different locations, they had certain types of like safety issues where either the environment was a threat to like younger people, or I think it was a means to just make sure that we have a decent status in the community. um, I know my parents, they are both from Philly. They grew up on, those sides of the spectrum where, there wasn't a whole lot of resources, and they had to really fend for themselves. They didn't really have a lot of parental like guidance or role models of anything of that nature. So like when they raised us, they did, they do the best they can. And I think in any type of response, especially when you're an adult, you begin to understand how your parents raise you, how they process things, how understanding they're capable of being if you give them a room to like to speak on how how their upbringing was, how they can convey that through you without adding too much baggage onto you. And definitely this year it helped me a lot in realizing not only their like faults, but also their great strengths and what it really took to raise like not just me, but I also have two sisters.
Nice.
um so like yeah, I owe a lot to them in regards to the gifts that I like have in regards to understanding. But it wasn't a gift attained through them giving it to me, it was a gift attained through our interactions, if that makes sense.
You know what? I would say this honestly. I'm a little no, I ain't say I'm a little. I'm older than you. I'm 35, but I could just see how mature and how poised and how intellectual that you are. And your parents hats off to they did a very admirable, great job in raising you. So and you and your other I haven't met your other siblings, of course, but you them raising you and your siblings, they did a very great job. Excuse me. So are you the youngest, the oldest, or in between?
I'm definitely the youngest, but I feel the oldest.
You know the funny thing about having older sisters is I bet you they feel like they can boss you around as well.
I plead the fifth.
Hey, I totally understand. Say please, please. We don't want any trouble or any smoke from the sisters later on. We love you. We appreciate you. If you ever get the link to this, we appreciate you. You've done a wonderful job. Wonderful, wonderful. And if I'm not mistaken, I've been through, touching upon Delaware. I've been through Delaware, I think, quite a few times. It's not that big of a state. It's really driving straight through. I
Hmm.
want to say the capital Dover.
Yes, it is.
Wonderful. Yes, I know a couple people from Delaware. But definitely, man. So without getting too much into it, is like your upbringing as far as in Delaware. Don't tell us where you're located at, but I don't think I don't think it's very diverse in Delaware, is it? It's more so.
No, no,
Yeah.
it's not. I mean, it consists of rural areas to like suburban areas. I mean, if you really want to get urban, Wilmington, Newark, those types of locations are probably where it's at. But aside from that, there's like the variety in types of setting. It's not like too keen here. It is more so quiet in Delaware than it is in any other state, and that's like quiet is something I appreciate a lot. I'm not a big fan of noise, and I know a lot of people, especially my age, are like fond of like partying and doing all that other types of stuff. It was never me. I always liked keeping to myself, making sure I'm focused on what I need to do. And there wasn't always a time where I was focused that the way I am right now, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But Delaware has definitely like helped me kind of be more, what is it called, solitary, and that's a trait I feel I need in this current climate.
Definitely, and I say that because just my thoughts on Delaware. So is it okay? So growing up, was it not like diverse? Did you guys encounter any problems? I guess I would want to say because you guys were a black family. Did you kind of feel any encounter any things growing up that you want to touch upon?
So my parents were very great workers. They still are. And when we were in when we were moving in Delaware, we were in a relatively nicer neighborhood. We were the only black family in this neighborhood at the time, and we
Wow.
had a really nice home. All the, well, not all the, but like quite a few folks think like thought we didn't belong there. And I remember one time they actually like called the police and asked us if we like, are you lost? Do you belong here or something of that nature? And it happened when I was younger, so like it's very blurry in my mind. But the very fact that that happened, it just goes to show you that current climate at that time. This was like definitely over a decade ago, so this was a different time. But after that, it wasn't really too big of an issue. I know, especially going through schools, like I went from school to school, not because of any behavioral issue. It's just because we were constantly trying to find, a safe passage for us. And I know that in school, I definitely was a class clown. I was I wasn't very intellectual in school. Let's say that I read a lot of intellectual things, but it turns out I really knew nothing. And I had to expound on why I had to do this, especially in my later years. Is like, why did I have to you know have this need for attention in that current climate at that time? And it really just boils down to a lack of self-love and self-respect. I think putting on a mask so you could appease others regardless of your attributes, your strengths and weaknesses, it's really not a healthy thing to do. And if you further it on just for the sake of other people's approval, I think it will really harm you and your psyche in the end. And right now like, even through depictions of a lot of my pictures, there it's mainly just me in my photos, and I try to use that as a beacon, because even if you're solitary, there still can be an abundance inside of you where you don't have to be lonely. You can be alone but not lonely. It's like that's the blessing of solitude. You can be on your own and enjoy these moments of peace without having to appease anyone. But if you are in the setting, you're completely whole within yourself. You get to express yourself however you want. People can think what they want, but you will be indifferent to a lot of opinion.
Touche, touche, touche. And I think you said it. You definitely said a mouthful. And my word and advice for you is, and because I constantly struggle with this. It's
Mm,
like I beat myself up sometimes for my past transgressions and the person who I was before.
mm,
And I say that because like I'm a very harsh critical myself.
mm-hmm.
But like I said, the person you are today is better than the person you were yesterday. So you give yourself a lot of grace, my friend, because you've grown up a whole lot. So the person you are today is definitely better than the person you were 10 years ago. But the good thing about you, you've grown and you gained wisdom, and you're aware of that. Like, okay, Juan, I can't do this anymore, or I realize I need more self love. So like I said, don't beat yourself up too much, because you're definitely growing into the person that you're destined to become, and it takes time. Uh, But I'm the type, I'm just like you. I'm like, oh God, the things I said 10 years ago, you wouldn't believe came out of my mouth. Or the person I was, my action.
Right.
Excuse me. Um, but yeah, let's just dive. You said some other things too, because I always take mental notes when I'm talking to people. One thing I do like about Delaware is, like you said, it's rural, and it gives you time to 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 uh to find yourself, and it's not as much noisy as the city. I've grown up in New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, Irvington, New Jersey, Connecticut
Mm,
as well. So I definitely moved around a lot. And for me, what I struggled with was going different places and then having to start over with making new friends. And then two, every school I would go to will be tapping up on something different. So one school will be doing fractions, the other school will be doing something else. So I definitely understand where you're coming from with going from different school. But I'm glad that you actually had a chance to settle down and you found yourself. And like I said, me personally, I live in North Carolina right now. I rather live in North Carolina, and it's not as populated, and it's more, I don't have to worry about rush hour traffic. You
mm-hmm.
know, I'm at peace. So yeah, definitely that was a good. You said that as well. So let's get into the process, because that's what we're here for, of your book. I'm
Mm-hmm.
super excited to talk about this book, because not because I'm a fellow author, it's just because I want to learn your process. Because you said something earlier, you said that you never kind of you weren't good at literature, so it's
Yeah.
crazy. The flip side of the coin is you became an author, a
Yeah,
self-published author.
yeah, yeah.
So let's talk about that process. How did you get from not I'm not per se saying liking literature, but more so strengthening your skills in literature and then becoming an author. So talk about that process. How did you become an author?
So, during the time I was in college, and I was pursuing an architectural degree, and I was in a romantic relationship with somebody who I'm not currently in a chapter with now. And at the time, I had the idea for like a book for the longest time, but I could never really put it into writing or anything of that nature. I always thought of like I'd make it as a game first and then build on the lore. But this person, for the sake of confidentiality, I'm not going to say her name, but I will say that this person was a major influence in me like starting the book to begin with. She suggested it. She even helped me like write and edit. So like, even if our chapter is closed, there's something I can always remain, and that's grateful for the work that that person put in to begin that process. And even when I was in the midst of writing, I was still very much struggling with piecing a lot of information together, because it was my first book. I didn't really have a guide to this. I know there were a lot of foundational elements that I needed to brush up upon, study extensively. And with this current book, um, I know I can dedicate all the work to myself because I done just that. I studied upon everything that I was lacking in the first book, and I managed to splinter everything into like remastered fragments, if it were, um, allowing more lore, more concision, just a better flow of the passage. And I've been doing that every single day, nonstop, after my full shift. Sometimes I go restless, but it really goes to show that that hunger is definitely there. I illustrate my own like images, not because I think I'm an artist or anything of that nature, because like anybody can really express themselves in an art form. But I do believe that if you have imagination, show it. And if you express it through writing, cool. If you can express it through art, cool. It doesn't have to be the best, but it can be an extension of yourself or your thoughts.
Mm-hmm. I,
And I'm sorry.
no, I love that. Go ahead, continue, expound upon it.
So the general idea how I began this book, I studied a lot of different cultures and religions, and I found truth in each of them. So I didn't really want to discard of like any type of religion or whatnot, regardless if I worship it or not. I always like to find the truth in everything. Um, I could call myself a spiritual person, but honestly, I think in that nature, I think of myself as just a person. If I say if like I'm spiritual or something like that, um, there's kind of like a new line of new age like spiritualism that's kind of done out of proportion, where people do like extensive things trying to prove that they're spiritual instead of just being spiritual. So I don't really want to fall into that category, but I will say that I found a form of enlightenment in learning about all these different things and also applying different principles and adding them to my own philosophy.
Man, that is amazing. And the greatest thing I grasped from the first thing that you said was you gotta realize the difficulty to the degree of what this man has done. Not a lot of people write, illustrate as far as pictures and put their own work and then publish. So you just like a trifecta. Like you did three things that are super super difficult. Like I said, you write your own material, you illustrate with the pictures, and then you self-publish because you can easily take your work and give it to someone else, and but you didn't do that. You self-published through Amazon, which is super super amazing. So the title of the book is the I'm sorry, Child with a Dragon's Heart and Totality, a spiritual journey into the great unknown. And that is the book, people. You can find it on Amazon. So how did you come up with that title for your first book?
I'm not gonna lie, it was something that kind of came on the fly. Um, and I do hope you get better soon, man. And that title, yeah, it was something that just popped in my head. I always was a big fan of a child monk, especially from watching Avatar: The Last Airbender. I know a lot of people have watched that, and they'll see a lot of similarities, not between necessarily the personality of the main character, but just because of the child monk type of start. um it kind of introduces a similar atmosphere in that regard. From there, I wanted to add my little spin on this because I studied a lot of prehistoric history, and I do know that when you look back in history, if you follow our genetic coding or something of that nature, if you follow the evolutionary chain, the first people originated from Africa. We were dark. So if you focus on that and you showcase that in a novel like this, which I mean, there's been countless people who've done as I just said, but like I think the in lore, like rituals and traditions that are based in those types of things, they can be expounded upon and add your own little twist upon it. And that's exactly what I did with a lot of my main characters and even the spiritual characters. I'm a big fan of, spiritual beings. I don't worship any spiritual beings, and I hear like a little static going on. I don't know.
I
Um,
know I don't have any feedback. I feel I hear good. Sounds good.
okay.
You good?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, when trying to base the expectation of how am I going to make this book look different, I made sure to study different languages. I do calligraphy in different languages. And I've been able to follow up and add a lot of my own different ideas to not only the characters in terms of personality, but also in terms of their special abilities, things of that nature. Since I originally wanted it to be a game, there is like interactory elements to it that I find that people might find interesting. And since it's more concise now, it'd be much more readable. I'm also narrating it as well, and that's going to be released way later on because narrating at this time, since my current job is consisting of me talking all day, it is it's a struggle on the throat. That's what I'm going to say. But I'm able to do the different type of voice dialects required. I'm able to edit different things to make it sound proficient in one way, shape, or form. And above all, I think if one thing is for sure, that this book really showcases the work ethic that an author can really pursue. You have to almost be obsessed with your work in order to fall in love with it. And I think if regular people, were to just hear me babble on about this for as long as I have, then they would probably be like, okay, he's just drawing. I don't want to hear about books, something else, or I'm gonna go party or whatever. So like it really does take a fellow author to really display the patience to adhere to a lot of ideas or processes of being an author.
Man, to be honest with you, here's why I'm super impressed. Is because not only that you're a fellow author, it's because like people don't understand like what you just said. If you, I mean, granted, it's almost like a fraternity, a club where it's like, okay, it's almost you have like the DR in front of your name, or just because it's like you know what it took. I know what it took for you to get to where you're going as far as the process. And you're an artist. Like people don't understand. Like you're taking thoughts from your brain, writing them down. You're typing it, and it takes countless hours of thought. And am I saying the right word? Things of that nature, man. So it's very impressive. And if I'm not mistaken, it has 455 pages. So you had a lot of thought. And that's just the edited version. You probably had a lot more words.
Hmm.
So I'm going to talk about two more things, and because I don't want to, dive too much into this book, because we definitely want to talk about the other book that's coming up as well, without giving
Hmm.
too much gems away. So, tell me what your thoughts were in writing this particular line, and I quote: "A chosen child who possesses a dragon's heart must fulfill an ancient prophecy to gather important celestial being who will help fight against the evil that threatens all realms."
Hmm.
So talk about, expound about that. Get that was the description of the book. So talk about like that particular line
Hmm.
description.
So the premise of the book is like that child monk that I said in the beginning is like a main is the main protagonist. He has to he has a very heavy burden on his shoulders, and I think he saving all realms without people really knowing your existence. That's kind of like the premise of this. Not a lot of people know he exists. And he has to conduct himself in secret and hide from the eyes of the world, even though his higher calling is something above something that they can even imagine. So I think when people have like a calling, um, I believe that it's secret. I think it's something that shouldn't be boasted about. And I do think that people have a higher purpose than what they perceive to be. And with this kid, he has a good foundation of friends and family who support him. They travel alongside of him. They learn from these spiritual beings alongside of him, and above all, they just grow deep as characters. And the first book, I know I don't like promote it anymore, but I know it was made. It was made during a time where I was much more depressed. It was a time where it was really apparent that I didn't love myself the way I needed to. And with this new book leading into that, it blows the first book out of the water, bar none. The improvements that I made on it, the little twists and additions of plot while still being concise and splintering it up, made it just that much more readable. And not to mention that I'm narrating it, it's like I'm going all out, and I want people to show that I put in the work for this, because nobody's helping me with this book. I have people who made offers. Don't get me wrong, and I do appreciate their good fortune. However, I don't want to burden anybody with the weight of my dream. I
Mhm.
think if I were to ask people to help in this regard or whatnot, when it's my vision, I feel like I'm just burdening them. And yes, I'm aware that sometimes you can't do it all yourself. But if you can do it yourself, try. Or if you believe you can do a lot of this stuff, try. No, don't just give up. Because if you're up for the task, then you can do it.
Touche, touche, old sport. And we talked about it earlier. I feel like too many people kind of put themselves in this box when you got to break out the box sometimes,
Hmm.
and live life and be free and try different things. Putting yourself in this four corners in this square and just locking yourself in. But I definitely commend you, man. And I'm not gonna dive too much into the last book. We're going to transition into the next book without giving too much. But as you can see, people, he's a 10 times better writer, and he kind of like he challenged himself to become a better writer. But like I tell people, don't skip the process. You had to go through the first book and learn and transition into the better writer that you are today. So I'm glad that you understand, and then that you're aware of, okay, this is what I need to work on. I laid the foundation with the first book, but you're challenging yourself, and you challenged yourself to become a better writer. So the next book, I can't wait to even open the cover and touch up on it, because I know you personally. So that's even phenomenal. So I'm going to get into one more thing before we get into the next book. Um, what's your writing name and your nickname is, I don't want to butcher, DoShanko. So how did you get that name?
Yep. So I know I pronounce it as DoShanko.
DoShanko. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, it has a bit more regalness to it that way. So the reason for that to begin with is because I share the same name as my father. My name is Juan Eric Stafford Jr. And for the longest time I've been called Junior. And I love my dad, but I don't like sharing a name or title with somebody because I feel like my individuality is just so out there that sharing that name automatically might place me in a shadow. And I might inherit a lot of his look. My dad is a very handsome man. I'll commend him for that. And But DoShanko is a means to give myself a sense of a title and identity. And through my books, I want to be known as that. I don't really want to be. I don't really want to be popular. See, that's the thing with me. My work could be best selling if I
Right.
really like promoted it and marketed it to be so. But that's not my goal. My goal is to resonate with a lot of people and show that I'm capable of putting in originality into a story, trying to tell the story in the best fashion that I can, while still being open to different type of influences. Um, and I think a lot of people for example, a lot of people are into romance. That's a flavor. That's a flavor that a lot of people are into. They also like sci-fi. Um, so I think with a lot of people, they gravitate towards the brand but sometimes the stories might not make sense. Like it might be well promoted, it might be very well polished before it's released, but if the stories don't correlate, then the investment would be a letdown, but it would still be bought out because it's a brand. With me, I just wanted to make sure I took a different approach, make sure my story is investable before I am investable, if that makes sense. And once people start seeing that the story can correlate, then they'll be more invested in me as a creative mind. I don't even have a website of like myself up because I don't really like putting myself out there that much. All I really want to focus on is building a great tale in this novel series, and I'm gonna do just that. I have the work to put on, several different novels, but I'm making sure that I pace myself and not putting out too much at once. So when I finish publishing this book, I'm still working on another book after that. So I've written like multiple books ahead, but I'm pacing and editing these books at a time, giving myself something to do each time. That way, I um, I don't revert to not putting in the work when one book is published.
Beautiful, beautiful. I think even going back to your name, I think you wanted to find a sense of individuality. You know, I've struggled with that myself. I'm a junior. My
Mm,
father passed away when I was 10 years old, and he was a senior. Of course, naturally, I was a junior. And the funny thing about being a junior, like you said, people always try to, in a sense, inadvertently belittle you because you're a junior, like you're a little so and so, or you're just so. My grandmother, sidebar, she has a nickname for me, and she calls me Junie, right? Because I'm a junior, and it
yeah.
always makes me feel like a little boy, like So I'm glad that you were able to branch out and create your own name, and that's a strong name, and I love that, and I'm glad that you build upon that. So going into the next book, you don't necessarily have to give us a title, but tell us a little bit about it. Um, how is it the same protagonist? Is it are you taking us through another journey? Is he going through more realms? Take us through a little bit of the story without giving out too much of the book.
Yeah, so essentially, this story is actually just a fractured remastered version of the first one. So a lot of similar plot elements are there, but there's a lot more details and character development in this one that was not apparent in the first one. And it also gives like because the main protagonist also has to encounter spiritual beings. These spiritual beings have more of a sense of personality in this one as opposed to the other one. And the reason I wanted to expound upon this is because these spiritual beings have a type of elemental like association, and I didn't want to be a carbon cookie cutter in regards to like various things in cultural history, like ancient Greek. There's Helios, God. I'm pretty sure I even butchered that. To be honest with you, I hope it's Helios, like god of like fire or something like that. Um, but if I'm wrong, that's okay too. I'm most welcome to be corrected. Um, I don't want to have like fire god just describes fire in a very nice way. No, I don't want to have that guy, or I don't want to have him be really hot headed either. I want to make sure that these characters have multiple different dimensions of personality, and I want it to be enigmatic. I don't want to display all my cards at once because I know I have multiple novels, written ahead, and I'm going to pace myself over the years. So this is essentially like being an author is going to be the job I work for the rest of my life. I'm set on that, um, and it's a job that promotes a lot of longevity because you're not physically putting a toll on yourself. And well, I'm not going to say that you put a toll on your brain, but you don't put like a toll around like your body per
Yeah.
se. So you're able to get more wiggle room out of it, and plus it's something that will only get better as you age. It's something where you don't have to worry about your body breaking down and you're still not having the mindset to do what needs to be done. You can still do that and expound upon that. I think Star Wars is the best example of longevity and genius intellect in storytelling. It has the best like concept of storytelling in history. And with the recent works, yeah, but like the stuff that was made in the 80s and 90s, and then also from the Clone Wars, which they expounded upon a lot to expand their lore. That right there set an example for me of the longevity that's needed in order to put on a very well written story. And I can't like express enough that I want people to invest in a story, not a brand.
I love that, man. I love that. You said a lot, and I love everything you said. I think one thing that you talked about in this next book is more character development, and I
Hmm.
think that you took a lot more emphasis and time in developing all the characters. And I relate that to what's my girl name? J.K. Rowling.
Hmm.
Rawlings. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
She's another great author, and when you're an author, you're building a world. The Think about how much she had to emphasize on which character and their personality and their powers or their wizarding, wizarding powers. I would say, I guess. Um, Another one, not JJ, was it J.R. Tolkien, the writer
Yes.
of Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
Another great writer, movie director, George Lucas.
Hmm.
I think, like you said, it's like, I think if I'm not mistaken, in history, or to become a great writer or a great movie, you have to have like three elements, and George added those elements within within his writing and his movies.
Hmm.
And I know I want to say one of the three is definitely a good love story, a good protagonist, and I forgot the core basis of it, but like you said, it's a phenomenal piece of work. So we're definitely excited, and I think our next interview, we're going to definitely touch up on that book a little bit more. So don't tell us when you want to release it, but what's your timeline for the next book, as far as around what year do you feel like you want to get that published?
So, the book that I'm currently working on right now, I actually plan to release it in the next couple of months.
Wow.
And one thing I've been doing in that period of time is like, I know I sent one to you, but I've made trailers for different illustrations for the book. And not a lot of people like do that without all the polishing or like the editors or something like that are hired to do this. Like, I do this all on my own. And this is all like just a signal and a representation of my imagination being showcased in a rhythmic fashion. And I couldn't be more proud of myself. Like, I really like am just thankful that I had this gift, because where else would I direct it? I don't know like where else I would really direct it. I could have been a dancer, but I'm not professional, and I have no desire to be a professional dancer. But I know that with this path, I know it's gonna fill me with a lot of wisdom. I know it's an addiction of some sort. So like once I get invested into my work as a book, like social events and a lot of opportunities I often miss out on, because I'm so focused with the book and trying to hone myself as an author, as DoShanko. And I had a lot of help along the way. I can't take all the credit for the work that I put in. There were a lot of like circumstances that hindered me in the past, but they were a blessing in disguise, because I learned how to create a sense of responsibility and accountability on my end. I used to be a guy who made a lot of excuses for why things didn't get done. I used to have a very bad work ethic. Okay. So coming from that, I not only found a way to improve myself and increase the motivation that I need, but also I built a layer of discipline and accountability. I always am prone to take full accountability of my actions. And if, it's just in this current time, I'm also able to improve upon that, instead of just saying, okay, this is the way I am. I'm messed up. I can't fix this. No, there are certain things I can fix for the sake of not only other people, but also for myself, to achieve a better sense of peace within my own being, to the point where I don't even need anybody else, you know? So I think a lot of young people really need to adhere to that. They really need to know that they're whole on their own, because a lot of people, especially in this state in particular, they're chasing after people. And I'm seeing a lot of hearts getting broken on a regular basis as being very frequent. Now, me, I'm not in any rush to be in a relationship, I think by this time, I'm so focused on growing myself that I also don't want to burden anybody else with my problems until I find a better way to manage and sort myself out. And you know, the guy, I'm a handsome looking man. I will admit that. I know I can get any girl I really want. But just because you can get something doesn't mean you should. And I also know that there's a sense of responsibility in the livelihoods of other people. And plus, I have different goals. I have different goals than the average person. So, like, for one thing, I don't even seek to be a biological parent. I don't even seek to be a biological parent at all. I would much rather adopt if that's in my future, because it's in my nature to guide those who are already here. Um, but like a lot of folks are in a rush to make a commitment, and it backfires a lot. And I want to make sure that my commitments are towards things that promote longevity. I always think in the long term. I don't think about short term pleasure. um I'm certainly capable of having fun. I'm not like a stick guy. But I will say that there's a bit more flexibility and sacrifice involved for putting in the work that you need to do to grow yourself as a person.
And you definitely touched upon a lot, but you're factually accurate, man. A lot of people dive into situations and they haven't healed themselves, and
Mhm.
then they bring the baggage from the past relationship or the past issues they have into the new relationship, and it's like a spiraling problem, snowball effect. But I'm glad that you're working on yourselves. And in the words of Ben Parker, DoShanko is very aware that he's a very attractive man. Genetics, like he said earlier, has passed on very well from his father. He's aware of that. But like I told you, in quote and unquote Ben Parker, with great power comes great responsibility. He's
Mhm.
aware of his power. So yeah, man, I think we touched upon a lot today. We're super excited. I'm just flabbergasted, lost of words on everything you talked about today. And shout out to Bank Shot Basketball before we get out of here. I believe this is a friend of yours, Brandon. I'm not going to butcher his name, but I'm going to spell it out: ACQUAAH.
Yeah.
Thank you for tuning in, and thank everyone else for tuning in. It'll be up on Facebook within the next 24 hours. But before we go, do you have any questions for us? Because I know we quizzed you a lot. Do you have any questions for us?
The only concern I would have for that is like, when is the next one? Well, I'm so eager, to just spill the beans. That like I had like a really great conversation with you, and I almost like I prevented myself from having a wide smile on my face, because having a wide smile hurts. I got dimples, okay? It's it's a strain, but I do know that I'm definitely poised, and I'm looking forward to more interactions with you guys. I do really thank you for like taking this time, because I know you have a lot of different responsibilities on your own end, to interview me today. And above all, like you're very wholesome, man. I do appreciate you a lot.
And old sport, the honor and pleasure is all ours, man, because we're very humble that you took the time out to join us today. Where can we find you on social media?
So, Facebook, yeah, you can find me at Juan Eric Stafford Jr. if you choose to go that route. However, if you go to Instagram, I am DoShanko, and it is spelled DoShanko. Can't miss it. It's the only name like that. And above all, that's kind of how I operate. I don't really use a lot of other forms of social media. I try to keep it very concise. And above all, um, I just like to keep like secret. That's pretty much me. I'm a very private person.
I love that, man. I'm a big time introvert, extrovert myself. I tell that people to people all the time. But other than that, we're definitely gonna do it. We have to do a part two. It's inevitable.
Mm,
I feel like we'll plan it, and we can get you back on next month or whenever you're around your schedule, because we want to roll it out. I guess whenever we can do it next month or whenever you want to do it. We're available. We're here for you. We'll definitely dive into the next book more, give more secrets out with that, and we're going to promote this one very hard. And thank you guys for tuning in. And we're super excited, and we're happy for you, my brother.
thank you, thank you. Feelings mutual, my friend.
Touche. So we'll catch you guys on the next one. And like I said, this is the first ever DNC interview. So thank you guys for commenting, liking, sharing, subscribing. You can find us on YouTube at Francis and Shondell at DNC. But we'll promote this very hard. And like I said, we'll catch you guys on this part 2 of this interview. This is part 1, but we're going to do a part 2, guys. So don't be afraid. We didn't touch upon everything that we liked, but we got so much more for you guys in the future. And to buy the book, go to Amazon, and it is available. The first book is available on Amazon at DoShanko. Like he said, DoShanko. I looked it up. All you gotta do is scroll down. That's his author name, and you'll find the book. And before leaving, let's make sure they know the title of the book once again.
So the first book is called Child with a Dragon's Heart Savant. And before we leave, I got to put the old slogan that I use in there: face the mountain. That's the phrase that I use all throughout my life now, is face the mountain, always overcoming an obstacle.
I love that. We're gonna end on that. That's deep, and I love that. So thank you so much, and we'll be looking forward to hearing from you again. And we'll like I said, this will be up within the next 24 hours. And next time, people, don't worry, Facebook will be fired up. I think I'll probably have it on LinkedIn, and we'll stream more on more live platforms in the future. And I'll see you guys later. All righty, take care.
Yep.